Hey y'all, it's Bart. Welcome to another episode of Soccer for Us. And on this episode, we are talking all about the U.S. Women's National Team and the 23 players that are heading down under for the 2023 Women's World Cup. If you don't know, it is hosted by Australia and New Zealand. The U.S. plays all three group matches in New Zealand. And it is going to be probably the most competitive Women's World Cup we've ever seen. Someone else who loves some hot takes and loves herself, not only just the women's national team, but women's soccer in general, is my good friend Eboni, Noel, Navidad, Natal, Christmas. Pick one of those. She will go by one of them on Twitter at some point.
I may just change my name to all of those.
Yeah, there you go. Have you recovered from the Hennessy Cup or whatever it was that you attended? Was it 2 weeks ago?
The Henny Derby. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fully recovered now. It was a rough couple of days after that. Not gonna lie. But it was a lot of fun. It was just a big celebration of just Black fans and soccer space, and to do it for two people that, you know, are really making a big change in how Black fans are viewed and how Black fans retain that knowledge and share that knowledge. It was a lot of fun, and it's like one of my favorite things to do every year. So,
well, you are very active in soccer supporters culture. Obviously, you're an American Outlaw. You're are you in charge of Oak City supporters or just heavily involved?
I am on the board for Oak City supporters. Yeah.
So they are obviously support both the professional teams up there in Raleigh, North Carolina, NC Courage, and North Carolina FC. You have some NC representation on this roster, both from a collegiate level and professionally. So I'm sure you all are excited to have maybe the number one goalkeeper. We will talk about that, but a goalkeeper represented here in the squad.
Yeah, he does NCFC, which is the men's side, and then there's the Courage supporters group called Uproar, and they do the NC Courage support. So I do more of the board stuff for OCS, and then I'm just an active member of Uproar. But yes, very excited here in North Carolina to see two top players go to the World Cup, and obviously, we have a lot of ties in North Carolina within, like you said, collegiate level. Some didn't make the World Cup, but are still playing out of their mind for club. And obviously, we have a lot of Tar Heels that are making their way down under. So,
yeah, definitely still a strong program on the collegiate level. But we're here to talk about those 23 players that Vlatko Andonovski selected, but we're also here to talk a little bit about the fact that we're both going to be down in Australia and New Zealand. I'll be in New Zealand covering. You'll be more covering, I think, this World Cup than I am. I am going for pleasure. I'll be podcasting through it, but I will not be. Let's just put it this way: I will not be of sound mind during many of these matches. So my takes will be very colored by certain beverages. Let's just put it that way. What are you most looking forward to as you are close to embarking on this journey?
Just how different it'll be. This is my third World Cup. So I did 2015 in Canada, and then I did 2019 in France. And both of those were just two vastly different experiences. But there was also some very cool similarities, like the smaller towns embraced it a little bit more, it felt like, both in Canada and in France. But this is all within like big cities, so like Brisbane and Sydney and Melbourne. So I want to see how that compares and contrasts, and then just getting to do things there, because I don't feel like I did a lot of things in France just because there was so much going on, and the country itself just, I don't like, they should have been prepared more, but they just didn't feel like it was. So I'm hoping that there's more to do and more to do with other fans. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, I think that would be a criticism I also had of that last World Cup. But I agree that like the smaller cities were fun. I went to Grenoble and Rennes and Le Havre, and like they were all about the fact that the Women's World Cup was there. It just seemed more present.
Yeah, same thing. I was like, Le Havre was so much. I had more fun there than I did in like actual Paris. I'm like,
It
it
was
was like a
fun.
small, yeah, it was a small little fishing town that was just like, oh, all these people are here. Yes, let's show them a good time. Like, let's talk food, let's talk culture, all this stuff. And I didn't get that in Paris. I got a lot of rude looks and no ice in my water. I don't know. And that was just
Hopefully they're a little bit nicer in Australia and New Zealand. I've heard they are. Hopefully this is a fairly nice experience for our U.S. women. I think if we just start with like your overall take of where you feel like this team stands right now.
in terms of previous teams that we've had, or in terms of the world and how they're playing.
That's a great. Let's do both. How do you think this compares to kind of where we have been and how we compare now to what we see on the global stage?
Okay. So the first one's a little bit easier. This is a much younger team than we've ever that we've ever had, really. Um, I think we transitioned a little too late, though, in order to compete with the world stage. It's still a talented squad. They can still go up against some of the best, but you didn't grow where you needed to grow, and you didn't develop them soon enough. You brought them in too late. You didn't give them enough opportunities to really impress you. You didn't give them like there's a lot of factors that go into obviously going up against Brazil, Germany, England, things like that. So this squad can compete within itself, like the 2019 team, but that's also because a lot of that carried over, which you don't see in a lot of the other countries. There's not a lot of carryover. So, like, unless your name's Marta, you should have, like, that replacement should have already been beside you so that they could go into this World Cup, especially because it was an expanded team, like expanded World Cup. They should have already been there with you so that you could say, all right, you're ready to slot in and you're ready to go, and I can just be that cheerleader for you. But now we're relying on a lot of old legs, a lot of hurt legs to run down Sabina and Caroline and like France, all of France. France is so freaking fast. I don't understand. Spain, they're so young, but they're just they're gonna run right through you. So like I don't know if they're ready for that and if they've seen enough of that within a small turnaround time. I think the She Believes kind of gave them an idea of like how good the world has gotten and how the world has caught up and in some cases in some federations passed US. But I'm still hopeful. I mean, it's the US squad. You kind of have to be hopeful, but you also have to be very realistic. And I don't know where I'm at in that linear of hopeful but realistic yet.
We'll talk about that after we've dissected the squad, but I agree with you that like I think on the whole, personally, I still think the U.S. women's program is above everyone else in the world. Just because obviously we have 4 World Cups, we're still developing players at a high level. We have one of, if not the best professional league in the world. But you're right in the fact that there are several countries who have started to actually invest in not just women's soccer at the professional level, but also grassroots academy level stuff. So you're seeing the fruits of that finally pay off. I think unlike a squad like England that, for the longest time kind of fielded a women's team and they weren't bad. I mean, they've had some really good players in their history, but haven't really taken that time and effort to make them the best they possibly can. Obviously, they won Euros last summer. You've still got Germany, who's very good. You've got a France team that has new leadership that may be all that they need to actually take that next step. And you've still got teams like Brazil, who is a historic favorite. People, look at what they've done in their history, but as you just pointed out, they've got so many young players that have just really come on, and hey, a lot of those in NWSL, which is really cool. This is going to be, as I said, probably the most competitive World Cup that we've ever seen. I'm still not sure if we'll see a new champion, and that's my hot take. I still think that there's, I still think we have a team like Germany or the United States, based on how the bracket kind of breaks down, to me, still have the best chance to win that title again. But would it surprise anyone if France or Brazil wins? Would it surprise anyone if England takes I don't think anyone would be surprised, even though they would be new champions.
Yeah. I can definitely see both sides of. I see Brazil as the favorite, but I could also see history catching up with them, like not finishing tournaments and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that's gonna be a fun one though. It's gonna be a really good World Cup, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that's just the fun that we have to look forward to. Let's talk about this roster though. So 23 players, which I keep saying that because it is the smallest roster that Vlatko has had to put together in a while. So I think that does kind of, one, paints the fact that, we've seen some other players that were included that aren't in this roster now, but also leaves room to talk about the fact that just 6 months ago, the Men's World Cup got 26 players. And right. The women's was sent back to 23. Obviously, we all understand that the reason that the 26 players were allowed is because of post-COVID still protocols and health considerations. But the reality is 26 or 23, these are arbitrary numbers. And if you expand it, you got to be, in my opinion, you should be doing it for both tournaments. And I don't think we're fully out of that post-COVID match congestion, which is, again, one of those reasons why we needed extra players for the World Cup back in November. Now we don't get it for July and August. It needs to just be, again, reiterated that those rules changed.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest pain point, because if they applied the same rules like they should have, some of these names that were missing would probably be on these rosters, right? Yeah. So it's shocking. Well, I'm no longer surprised, but I am shocked that they would blatantly do this, is not expand, because you open that box now, right? There's no way you're about to tell the men that they have to go back to 23.
It's right, and it's the same thing that I always look at as well with when we were doing the substitutions during COVID. It's okay, we'll give you 5 subs. Thank you. Again, 3 subs was just an arbitrarily stupid limitation. So we can look at it from the equality messaging of 26 versus 23. Why aren't you just doing that? Because you should. But I'm also looking at it from why does it matter? 26, why are we beholden to 23? What's wrong with going to 26, period? You did it for the Men's World Cup. It clearly benefited teams. It's there's a lot of reasons why I don't understand it. And we could go round and round in circles, but again, only 23. And to your point, though, we'll talk about some of those misses, because I'm with you. Had there been 26, we're looking at probably some of them being included. Let's start, though, with the goalkeepers. Audrey Kingsbury from Washington Spirit, Casey Murphy from North Carolina Courage, and Alyssa Nair from Chicago Red Stars. The big miss here is Adie Franch. She's had a rough season with Kansas City. Granted, Alyssa Nair has had a rough season with Chicago. Is that surprising? What is it surprising, or is it kind of the expected?
No, I think going into it, we always knew that it was going to be Nair and Murphy, and it was really the third spot that was up for grabs. But over the years, felt like that was AD's spot.
Yeah.
Right? So now, I don't think that she was playing too well in Kansas City, but I also think that whatever was happening in Kansas City, and then they benched her World Cup was over. Honestly. Yeah. So I don't think Kansas City did her any favors by benching her, because right now Chicago was letting Nair work through it. They're like, you're preparing for a World Cup. We get you're trying to fight for a roster spot. You got to work your way out of it. That's literally what it felt like. I mean, and then again, her back line is not doing her any favors. It is.
We'll talk about that because there are some snubs on that defensive side of things for the U.S. that we could talk about. But like, Chicago is a mess and a half. Let's be real honest. Right. They're a mess. But Kansas City is also kind of messy.
I think this comes into what a lot of people had gripes about, which was league play. League play mattered more for certain players than other players. Because if you're looking at league play, Nair's not on the plane, right? You can't give me 4 goals, 5 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals every other week, and then still make a World Cup roster and be number 1, right? That just doesn't work for league play. Casey Murphy now leads with 7 clean sheets this year. She's not starting game 1. She's not.
I have thoughts about that. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if she does. I gotta be real honest.
I think if he's gonna go with the form matters and club play trope, he's got to start Murphy. But if he's just saying that just because he wanted to have his players that he wanted on the roster, it's gonna be Nair. Yeah. Like that comes more from I don't know, if form matter, 80 French and Nair are playing the same way right now, and it's not great. Yeah. But one's name is on this list and one's not.
And there are.
I do like that Kingsbury got her. I like that Kingsbury got her shot though. Like that's cool. League play mattered for her because she's been playing lights out for the Spirit. But then you also need to look at Fallon. You also there's other players. Right. Campbell. Like she was a national team player and now she's not getting looks, but she's playing really well for Houston right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even I think to your point, it's Kingsbury and Murphy are playing, I think, the best goalkeeper job right now in WSL. That's just my opinion. Goalkeepers are weird when you evaluate them. I agree. It's like Nair, if she weren't the person who was in net last time we won the World Cup, would she be getting this preferential treatment? Because I think the one thing that I think I will give Vlatko some praise for is that he didn't just run out Nair every single match of every friendly. Casey Murphy has played a lot of minutes these past 2-3 years. And I think that is one area that Vlatko recognized a flaw from his predecessor, who kind of just played Nair the whole time or played Hope Solo the whole time. And, injuries can happen, and you need to make sure that your second choice goalkeeper is also ready. So I'm really hopeful that experience Murphy's had with the national team. Again, I think she'll play in a group match because I don't think that it would. I think that Vlatko will play her that first match, but I could be wrong. It could be Nair. I'm really hopeful that Casey Murphy's experience playing actually helps us out because I'm with you. I don't know if I trust Nair the same that I have in 2019. Because her form has not been very good. Let's look at the defenders then. Alana Cook from Reign, Crystal Dunn from Portland, Emily Fox from North Carolina, Naomi Girma from San Diego, Sofia Huerta from Reign, Kelly O'Hara from Gotham, and Emily Sonnert from Reign. Now, the big name missing, as we all know, Becky Sauerbrunn is not on this roster. She would not be able to play with the injury she's had the minutes that I think Vlatko would want her to. It's possible she would have been okay to play finally by quarterfinals, semifinals. I just think that she and Vlatko came to a decision that it wasn't the best. What the surprise is, I don't think there's a real replacement for that spot on the roster. Were you shocked that there wasn't an action? No, I'm talking literally another center back. Because that to me was somewhat surprising. That said, I can't name you another center back that I go, yeah, she deserves to be going to the World Cup this summer. Does that make sense?
I mean, if we're looking at informed play, then you can look at a couple people. I mean, even if I were to go down the list from teams, Kaylee Kurtz from Carolina, but she'll never get
Yeah.
that look. Um, you're right. There was really no real replacement, like in terms of on the field and in the locker room, because
Yeah.
that's your captain, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, what do you do for that? There's nothing you can really do.
She will be I think she's kind of replaced by Sonnet and Ertz, in the sense that they both can
That's
play center back.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can call that playing center back. If so, no offense to Sonic, but
Listen.
does Sonic play center back well enough to replace Becky Sauerbrunn? And the answer should be
No,
immediately no.
absolutely not. Yeah.
But
I am actually curious why Sonnet hasn't had an actual look at like the defensive midfield position for Vlatko. Like, if we're being real honest,
like the six.
Yeah, like where she plays currently.
Yeah, because she's like honestly, she's not doing that great in the six role for already. So, like, if she doesn't fit to replace Becky as a center back, then you're not playing her out wide, like as like your outside backs, and she can't play the six. What is she doing on the roster? Like, you have plenty of locker room people on this roster already. What does that help you with? Because you're missing a very good defender that could like help you, like actually help you, and you didn't take her because you wanted Sonnet in there.
Yeah, I think two names that people would say were snubs from this group. One could be playing center back. Tiana Davidson is one that I don't know if she's a snub. I don't think she's played well this year, but she has been a part of the U.S. obviously before. She can play both center back and left back. I don't know if her form at all justifies even considering her, but just the fact that she has that history and she is capable of actually playing center back. The other one is Casey Kruger, who I'm not shocked she's not listed because all the other fullbacks are decent. I'm a little shocked she wasn't considered more, and I don't think she really truly was given the consideration she deserved. When you look at Kelly O'Hara, like, I love Kelly, and I think she's a great locker room girl as well, but like, Casey's been, I mean, even on a terrible Chicago team, she's been one of the positives for that team this year.
Right. Like, Kelly O'Hara hadn't played a match before the send-off match since like late May, early June. So you mean to tell me she skipped 6 games in the run-up to this consideration for the World Cup and you still took her?
Yep.
I thought form mattered.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's players that are being held to different standards of what form, and it's not being applied all the way across the board properly. And so we have players missing, like,
yeah. I think we can talk about that form line because Vlatko does like to use it a lot. I'm always of the opinion that form matters in the sense that, like, you need to still be playing decently well for your club team, but also you have to understand that, like, there are people who bring certain attributes and elements to a national team that may be different, and sometimes form at your club level is not fully under your control. However, a lot of these players who did get called up just weren't playing. So, like, how does form, like, if you're not playing, how do you judge your form? It's different than, for example, from the men's side, looking at like a Tim Weah, who hasn't really done a whole lot for his club this season, but is still very good, comes to the team and produces and contributes. We have, luckily for the women, a treasure trove of talent up and down and in most positions. So you don't need to hold on to someone who isn't playing at their best level for people who are playing better. Is there any other defender that's like, any other defender that you think maybe could have been in here or deserves some sort of discussion?
Carson Pickett, but he also wasn't running. He wasn't running her out well anyway. Like, I can tell you, like, so that last friendly, I believe she played versus Spain, right? I believe, and that sounds right. Yeah, I think it was versus Spain. Like,
I think you're right.
You didn't call her in initially, but then you got burned, and you're like, hey, come for vacation with your girlfriend and come to us. And guess what? You did fantastic job on that side. And then you call it. Like, we got beat, but we weren't beat on our side. And here we are. And like, oh, look, maybe you can like call her in and we can like move Crystal Dunn to the midfield. And we're just like, he's like, no. And I'm, why? You have natural left backs and right backs that you can literally call in, and you're just not, because you think Crystal Dunn's best use is defending. What?
Well, we can talk about
like, how many goals for Portland this year? Yeah. Crystal Dunn is my favorite, and
I get it. I want to talk about her when we talk about the midfield, because I think we'll just move.
That's what she should be. I agree.
Well, yes. We'll close it with this. I agree with you, Pickett. I think the problem is Pickett wasn't going to make it when you think of Emily Fox and Crystal Dunn as your left backs. Also, that could be your starting right and left back. You could see Fox on the right, Dunn on the left. But anyway, let's move into this midfield group, because I think there's a lot of talent in this midfield group. I don't know how that talent works with each other. So that's kind of my thesis on this midfield. So we have Savannah DeMello, the surprise call-up, Julie Ertz from Angel City, Lindsay Horan from Lyon in France, the only non-NWSL player on this roster, Rose Lavelle from OL Reign, Christy Mewis from Gotham, Ashley Sanchez from Washington Spirit, and Andy Sullivan, also from Washington Spirit. Let's first give a hats off to Savannah DeMello getting her call to the U.S. women's national team for this World Cup after having 0 caps and like 1 cup of coffee with the team before this.
You're right. I'm like the DeMello high. We're up, baby. We're here. We are ready. We are. But also, it should have, like, it's shocking to see someone with 0 caps make a World Cup roster, because you literally called her into camps, and then you're like, nah, I don't need to play. I'm just not sold on it. And then you just send her home and never call her again. But now you need her really bad, because Pino and Lavette and Rose are more hurt than you thought. And now you're just like, hey, you sent that edible arrangement. Like, you up? Like, you feel like you got your passport ready? Like, what you need? We got you. Like, well, what are your plans? We'll feed your dog while you're gone. All that jazz. That's wild.
This is apparently I was on the Attacking Third podcast. I said that this is the first time a player has been called up for the World Cup for the U.S. without a cap since Shannon Box in 2003. So, one, if you're Savannah DeMello, hopefully you have a career like Shannon Box. Like, that would be a decent career. But I think that was
the Womback injury, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I think that it's indicative, though, of a little bit where we are as a team right now in that transition, right? But that 99 to 2003 transition was a little weird, because in 99, obviously we had that great high. 2003, we get to host it again because of the SARS virus that canceled from China, but like the team was evidently not as strong because we didn't have the likes of like Michelle Akers and people like that. So I think that's just this. It just again shows this midfield is unsettled, but seemingly really settled. That, like, none of the other players that I mentioned were at all like they were going to this World Cup if they were healthy.
See, the problem is they're all settled in their own game, but they're not settled within each other's game.
Exactly.
So, like, Christy Mewis and Julie Ertz where are you playing Christy Mewis? Because Christy Mewis is not getting the start over Julie Ertz, but Julie Ertz also just came from injury and having a baby and not being in the national team for two years, whatever it was, right? And then Ashley Sanchez, where are you playing her? And where are you playing DeMello? Like they all have really good qualities, but you haven't put them in a game together. You don't know what they do together. Like you know what Sanchez and Sullivan do together because they play together. But you don't know how Sanchez and Sullivan played with Lindsey Horan. So
right. And honestly, when we have seen that, it hasn't been great. That's the thing that Vlatko throughout. And again, these are very talented players. None of these players are bad. Like these are very good players. And the fact that our midfield has been a consistent weakness for, since the Olympics, and even then it was not great at the Olympics, is really concerning. And it's where I think Vlatko deserves the most criticism because, look, I know people don't like to hear this, but I still think Lindsey Horan is one of our best midfielders. I still think Roosevelt is one of our most important players. Why are they not able to produce better soccer, together? And it's
because the glue that helped Lindsey Horan and Roosevelt combined to be great is injured because we broke her and she's sitting on a couch at her sister's house that made the roster. So it's we destroyed the very thing. All right, like if Sam Mewis was on this roster, I'd feel probably 75% better about us making it far into the World Cup.
Yeah, I think Mewis obviously is one of those players that would elevate this team to where it would be almost a no doubt, like you said, we're winning this World Cup. But unfortunately, she had multiple injuries. She isn't, for some reason, hasn't been able to even recover from, we're at 2 years now. And, while I don't think she's important, like you said, she balances everything out. She lets other people do their jobs better. I'm hopeful that Ertz being in that midfield, being that defensive midfielder, allows the creative players to have a little bit more freedom and license to do their thing, because I like Andy Sullivan, but it's very clear she's not as good at that style of play. And of course, Vlatko has refused to try any other style of play outside of the defensive midfield and to attacking midfielders. But he
could have.
He could have.
Coffee was right there. Coffee was right there. Yeah. But he doesn't have skills. He definitely has skill to 70 back to a US-like midfield.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like if you put someone like Coffee in that midfield, I can tell you what the rest of that midfield looks like because I know what she can do and I know she can play that position well. We're not asking a player to go from attacking to defend to the number 6 role. And then we're going, but now that spot is abandoned because all they really want to do is attack. And they don't really want to sit back. There's no box-to-box midfielder in here. That was Coffee. And you left her sitting at home because you gave up on her because you wanted Korniak. And then you didn't even take Korniak.
Let's talk about Korniak then, because this was actually the decision that made me the most upset. Not that she didn't come, because I don't believe she deserved to be on this roster. I don't think she's played well this year enough to make a World Cup. I don't think she's ever really, to me, impressed me at all at the national team level, and not really that impressive in NWSL. I'm not trying to say she's a bad player. Not my point. This is where the DeMello, Korniak, Coffee, like you put a lot of time and a lot of minutes and a lot of camp call-ups into Taylor Korniak. You tried her as an attacking mid. You tried her as a defensive mid. You tried her as a striker for who knows why. You put a lot of time and effort into this player for her to not make your World Cup squad. Time and effort that, again, I don't think that the defensive mid idea was fruitless. I do not understand, other than he saw, wow, she's tall, let's put her at the defensive mid position. That, to me, is like, listen, I get it. But you had Coffee, you had Howell, you had other players that you could have brought in to at least see. And again, I don't think Coffey has necessarily looked good for the U.S. women when she has played. That's my point is, neither has Korniak, and Korniak has not looked good more often. So I'd rather Sam Coffey, who plays the position week in and week out, plays it very well for a team that freaking just won the league championship last year. I would rather put time and effort into her, and we didn't. Or I'd rather put time and effort by calling into Mello, who has been at the top of her game all season long and was really good last year. And instead, you chose to put all this time and effort into Korniak. She has a lot of minutes for the U.S. women's national team. And now she's not going to the World Cup. And again, I don't think it's a wrong decision to not bring her. The problem is you brought a no-cap DeMello when she could have been in these camps over Korniak and playing over Korniak.
The crazy part is, so even if you put all this effort into Korniak, which honestly, like I agree, it was a waste. Because what did that produce? It produced no Korniak and no Coffey. But also, including a Coffey, she's got someone from the Portland on every line, right? So there's a defender and a forward that she knows really well and knows how to read their runs, because guess what? She's been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So even if you can't depend on anything else, she can at least depend on Sophia Smith, like looking at her and going, yes, I'll be at that spot.
Yeah.
And then Sophia Smith doing Sophia Smith things and scoring 3. I don't know. Yeah. But that's still something you could have included.
Yeah.
Even in your last-ditch effort of trying to find someone to replace whoever is injured.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, without Sam Mewis, without Ertz, I don't think Sullivan was truly at that level, and that just is the reality. We tried it. I think, again, trying her so many times as a lone midfield was a bad idea. I did like in January when we were down in New Zealand, I think we did it some in the She Believes, where you had Lavelle or Horan slightly with, like, they were a little bit deeper. They were closer to Sullivan. That helped things out. It balanced a little bit, but it's just, he tried the same thing way too long. And then he tried certain players that didn't really fit. I was almost less mad at the Christy Mewis as a defensive mid thing. I'm like, well, look, she's probably going to go to the World Cup anyway. She's not a bad player. She can still hit a pass. Like, if you're saying, hey, Christy, can you play defensive mid because you're really good in possession? Fine. I don't think Korniak has any excellent qualities in either of those, but we'll tie it all up. I'm glad DeMello's here. I think that there are misses from this midfield crew because we invested too much time in Korniak and chose not to take her. The real question though is Rose Lavelle, because she isn't.
When's the last time she played for Reign? Right.
She hasn't played soccer since April.
Right.
Supposedly she's good. I think Laura Harvey's been saying she's okay. It's just not really like day to day is basically how she's described it a lot of times. I think she's trying to play that off.
Day to day means nothing when the days are getting shorter. Like, what does day to day mean? Like, right. Are we still saying day to day on game 1 versus Vietnam? Like, what does that mean? Like, it's either she's ready to go and she's not, and if she's not, what are we taking her for?
Right, and that's kind of like, again, that's what we did with Sauerbrunn, which I don't disagree with. I thought that, like, the decision to leave Becky off sucked, but if you're not going to be able to play her at a position where you don't rotate a lot, then it isn't worth it, even as good as she is. But Lavelle, O'Hara, Pino, like I there are a lot of players who haven't played a whole lot, and this is not Carly Lloyd or Abby Wambach, who decided to not play for 3 years before a World Cup or whatever they were doing. There's players who are able to fill these holes if you're not able to bring Lavelle or someone like that. And I'm hopeful she's healthy because I think she makes us she makes us a better team. She helped us win a World Cup in 2019. But if she's not healthy, who plays? Is it Sanchez?
I just feel like there's. I mean, we don't have a choice but to trust it because that's the type of space we built. Was we're not going to play the young kids until look, it's major tournament time and all the veterans that we thought were going to be healthy aren't healthy, and let's just go out there and have some fun. That's not how this works. Brazil is coming for you. Germany is coming for you. You have 4 World Cups and you went back to back. You have a target on your back.
Yeah.
There's no let's take it easy. No, everyone is ready. And it feels like there's pieces of this puzzle that just aren't ready. Like there's too many Kobe contracts happening with this World Cup, and now
yeah.
They're getting Kobe contracts, but they're playing like freaking D'Angelo Russell. Like,
yeah, I think this is where I think still we have, in my opinion, still the best player pool in the world. Like, that's what's confusing to me is like, if Rose Lavelle can't go, yes, it absolutely hurts this team because I think she is, when she's healthy and playing well, one of the best players in the world. Like, I mean, one of the best players in the world, especially in the midfield position. She can't go. We have just say like, hey, she can't go. We bring in DeMello and we bring in Sanchez and we just go with it because there's still very good players who would start for just about every other team at this World Cup, you know?
I mean, there's a player missing altogether that we aren't even bringing into camps.
And who would that be?
Could. Me Official.
Yeah, I think, we could talk a long time about me Official because I don't necessarily disagree with her not getting playing time. I don't like that she hasn't been given a look. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think she's necessarily better than like Alex Morgan. I think she might be similar to Ashley Hatch, but like, we don't know. That's where I'm at.
Right. We can't evaluate her national team time because he won't even talk to her.
Yeah.
Like you have a player that's literally scoring double digits in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
And doing it well and it's assisting and all of that, and you're not giving that a look like at all. Like, are you sure? That's my biggest issue. It's like you can say whatever you want about the league or the playing time or the whatever it is, but you can't say that the player doesn't fit if you haven't given her a chance.
Right.
And she could have easily stepped into midfield or forward position and said, okay, I can be here to help because Rose is hurt, but I can play that creative position or anything like that. So,
well, the other option, and you mentioned Carson Pickett, would be Crystal Dunn playing in her natural best woman who won league MVP position. And I also do think that is something that Vlatko has stupidly held on to from the previous administration. Like, there's a reason that Crystal Dunn started playing left back under Jill Ellis. I also think those reasons might be a little misguided, but we needed a left back. Crystal Dunn was given that opportunity. She sees that she's been great. No one's arguing that she's been a great left back. Problem is, if Rose Lavelle can't go, the person who I think is most equipped to do Rose Lavelle things is Crystal Dunn.
Right. But she's the best left back, arguably in the world. But she's an even better midfielder.
But like Emily Fox is a very, very good left. Like, this is where I'm at. Like, okay,
but you're not playing her at the back. You're playing her on the right. Like,
well,
what are we doing?
And that's where you have to evaluate these trade-offs. And I'm like, okay, I would rather have Crystal Dunn as my advanced midfielder because I think she is better than Ashley Sanchez or even Savannah DeMello at that type of position, right? If we're going to play a holding midfielder and 2 attacking mids, if you want to call it that, I think Dunn is better in that position, right? I think Emily Fox is much closer to Crystal Dunn at left back, because I think Fox is a very, very good left back. And then if you go, okay, well, she's playing right back, which I agree, she'll probably be our starter at right back. Is Huerta that much of a drop off? I don't really think she is. Is like
from Dunn or from?
So if we move Dunn into midfield, we move Fox to her left side. Huerta playing right back. Have we made our team worse?
No.
I that's where I'm at. But I think
honestly, Emily Fox and Huerta are kind of at the same level. So why not have that same equal level all the way around and make your midfield stronger? Because Crystal Dunn is a midfielder that scores goals.
Yes.
I've been yelling that for years. I've watched her, Lynn Williams, and Jess McDonald destroy like countless back lines for 3 seasons and win 2 championships. Like,
yeah.
And then she goes to Portland and then does the same thing, and you're just like, still a left back. And there's got to be something here where everyone is looking at each other and everyone's pointing at each other and going, yes, midfield, 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 midfield. And all the coaches are then looking, and then she gets into the national team setting, and they're like, so left back? So you still like that? Yeah, we're going to keep you there. And then she's like, but I would really like to be, and she finds her voice, and she goes, I would really like to be played in my natural position. And then they're like, I don't think so. Left back still. Like, something, like, and that's the problem with our federation, is they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to learn. They don't want to learn. They just don't want to be wrong. So there's a lot of places where they're getting it wrong, but because they've already stood on it, they can't let it go.
Yeah.
And that's where that Korniak, and that's where Crystal Dunn at left back, and that's where Emily Fox at right back is coming from.
Yeah.
My honest opinion. Like, that's where all of it is from.
Yeah. And let's be real honest. I also want to say Emily Fox has been great at right back. Like, I think she is a very good player. I'm excited to have her in this national team for hopefully several World Cups. To your point, though, Carson Pickett could have been called in. That could have been a solution. Like, there are other players who would have made this team, not made this team worse, may have made them better because of their proficiencies at that position. I do want to point out that from the media day today, Tamara Griffin kind of quotes Vlatko, more like paraphrases with a quote, saying that Vlatko adds on Dunn, they, quote, do not want to exclude the possibility of her playing in the midfield if that's what the team needs, end quote.
Oh, stop lying to me, Vlatko.
Right. So I think he said this similarly with Ertz, talking about playing Ertz at center back, which I think is actually more of a possibility than Dunn playing midfield.
Yeah.
And I actually think Ertz at center back, if needed, would be, I mean, she won a World Cup at center back. I know it was 8 years ago, but like, she can do it. And maybe for an injured person might be a little bit better because she's not running as much, but that's a whole nother conversation. At least he left the door open. I think the last time I think is a shift from the last time he was directly asked about it, of like, well, you know, if she wants to, she's got to compete against X, Y, and Z. Now, granted, Macario isn't here because of her injury, and he mentioned her when he talked about competing for that midfield spot. I think he is seeing the fact that his, especially advanced midfielder position, is a little weak right now. I don't think it's that weak. I think it's just not as strong as he would want. So maybe he's allowing that conversation to happen. I'm with you. Are you lying to us, Vlatko? Like, please don't lie to us. Because I mean, look, he could just be also the biggest troll in the world and show up against Vietnam and put Crystal Dunn as an attacking mid. And I don't know how we'd feel.
I don't know. Like, if that happened, I would literally, I don't even know what I would do. Like, if he started her game 1 in midfield, I would have to be like, he's the greatest coach ever. I would tweet that he's the greatest coach.
But
right. But still, we were playing meaningless friendlies, and he was still Crystal Dunn at left back. I'm like, what are you doing? Just like have fun, like go smile. player in the midfield.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to believe that this is a possibility. Let's just put it that way. And as we said, I think that would make our midfield much stronger.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, I think, the strongest position group on this team. And for my money, the best, I'm sorry, there are teams out there that have maybe better individual players at like one on their front line. You cannot name me a national team that's going to put out a better starting three than what we're going to put out in our starting forward combination than what we have right now. Alex Morgan from San Diego, Megan Rapinoe from OL Reign, Trinity Rodman from Washington Spirit, Sophia Smith from Portland Thorns, Alyssa Thompson from Angel City, and Lynn Williams from Gotham FC. Now, obviously, Morgan and Rapinoe, the four-timers. The other four players there, this is their first time at the World Cup. We can debate if Lynn Williams should have been at other World Cups. I think we would agree that should have been. But my point is, maybe Pino is like the one that you're like, I don't know about her anymore. But like, this is a damn good group. This is really talented, and there's some cheat codes.
This is a fun lineup because imagine Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Lynn Williams, and Alyssa Thompson, 3 out of the 4 starting for you every game.
Yeah.
In some capacity. And then you get them running, and then they tire out the defense. And then you go, okay, let me bring on Trinity Rodman or Sophia Smith or Alyssa Thompson and Williams. And then you're like, oh, so you're rude because I literally just chased 2 fast people, and now you're going to sub them out to put on 2 more fast people, and you think I'm just supposed to be okay with that.
And we're not talking fast. We're talking like Lynn Williams is.
She's faster with the ball at her feet. And if you think Lynn's fast, Alyssa Thompson's fast.
Right.
And if you think Thompson's fast, like if you think Lynn's fast, Sophia's got to be fast.
Listen, and if you did not watch what Sophia Smith just did in her final NWSL game before going against a very good Spirit team.
It was a casual hat trick because the first goal, she beat 4 defenders around her, and she's just, let me just go ahead and sneak right past you here. She get the Wisconsin and then here you go. And back corner. All right, cool. And then like, what is this? What are we doing? What's happening?
It reminded me so much of playoff Sophia Smith from last year. Where
that was terrifying too.
Right. It was like she was just so like this is the mentality we need because let's just be real honest. I think Alex Morgan is starting at striker. She's probably the preferred striker under Vlatko. If you're telling me that you have Alex Morgan occupying center backs, which she's very good at, and you have Smith and Williams, which I think are my starting wingers, doing literally anything they want to against the back line that has to account for Alex Morgan, that's a recipe for a lot of goals, right? If we can kind of free things up and not play in a rigid, boring system that Vlatko has given us. That's the concern, though, is how do we get from defense to attack and get these Alex Morgan has won multiple league scoring leaders. She's been finalist for Golden Ball or Player of the Year. You have Smith, who's a league MVP last year. You have Lynn Williams, who scored she's got like buckets of goals each year. Thompson, who is the most exciting, most exciting young player in NWSL right now. There are others who have a claim to that, but and then you add the fact that you have Trinity Rodman, who we kind of forget about, but not even forget about. It's just like, wait, she was that girl last year, and she's still that girl. This forward line is so lethal. The problem is, how do we get them the ball so they can be lethal? And that's my only concern.
I get the feeling that there's going to be a lot of attacking people dropping back so that they can finally touch a ball. And then they're going to be looking to pass that ball to themselves because that's where they should be anyway, is the one receiving it. And so I feel like we're going to see a lot of forwards playing very far back, which Lynn Williams is very capable of doing. She's used to going back to get the ball, but then she's also so quick with the ball at her feet that she can just go back into like the final third, get the ball, and then now she's sprinting up the field with Sophia Smith running with her, and that's just not fair. Like,
Yeah.
but I hate that she has to go so far back on the field, especially within this midfield, because it's going to be Sanchez is going to be up, Mewis is going to be up, Horan's going to be up. So only thing left is the Mello and Ertz to try to ping a ball to like bypass a non-existent midfield to try to get the ball into the final third. I don't know about you, but long ball FC is no longer a thing.
Yeah, especially for this team where I mean, you said they're fast, but like this team is gonna, and these players are better when they get the ball at their feet and run at back lines, right? Obviously, Lynn, Sophia, all of the, and even Alex, they can run past defenders. Like they're still, like Alex Morgan is still pretty quick, but like our wingers are going to be, they could blow past back lines, but that's not going to put us in our best position for them to make magic happen.
And to be fair, they have to be good at their feet because they're short. So like, like no offense, but like they're short. They're not getting a ball and going, oh, my first touch is a header into the goal. No, they're like, look, I'm low to the ground. Give me the ball. Let me squeeze between two legs and go score a goal. That's literally what Sophia Smith did on her last game. She got short, she got small, got compact, and beat 4 defenders to just slaughter right into the back corner. That's going to be her best. That's going to be literally all of their best quality. And we've got to find someone that can play that ball through lines or over the top onto someone's foot and just let them create.
Yeah, and that's going to be, again, the challenge, because I think having Ertz in our midfield will help us be a little bit better at connecting if she's healthy and able to play.
I mean, Ertz can definitely do it. We watched her do it with Sidney LaRue on that red card for Angel City.
Right. So that's my hope. And we know that Sanchez and DeMello both are capable of hitting good passes and also taking on defenders on their own. So if they're dribbling at a defender, and that draws another defender, now we've got extra attackers running. So there's a lot of like hope, because all of these players are very talented and have the ability to take defenders on 1v1 or hit passes. Again, what is the system that we're playing? We don't know. We haven't seen really, hopefully we're able to attack more freely than we have seen from this team, because goals have been a struggle. We went on, what was it, 2022, where we scored like 87 goals against Uzbekistan and all these teams that aren't very good. We come up against England, Spain, Germany, and granted, score goals against Germany. We didn't. I still think we did not look terrible against England, but we weren't converting. We weren't creating offensive chances, and that can't happen when you get to the World Cup.
Yeah, but chances are gonna be there, but we have to capitalize on it. And Sills from Shea Butter said it great. We have a problem where only one striker is scoring at a time. And so if that striker is not on, then where are those chances coming from? Where are those goals coming from? Right now, that's Sophia. So
because it was Mal for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
And now it's Sophia. I'm hopeful. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, can we get, if Sophia Smith is going to be at 2022 league MVP level, we might win the whole damn thing just because of that. But I need to be more confident in the fact that Lynn is also doing a lot. Alex is doing a lot. We've got a midfielder contributing as well. Like, I need to know that those players are going to also be good, because we can't win because of one player. I mean, maybe she is really good, but like it would be nice if we had multiple people contributing to the goal tallies and not just giving assists, but actually scoring. Let's take a step back, look at this from the bigger picture. I still think this squad is very, very talented. But we have 14 first-timers. Do you think that really matters, or do you think we just say that matters?
I think it matters. Like, the Challenge Cup is cool and all that, but there's nothing like a major tournament where you have a game every 3 days and you have to mentally be prepared for whatever's about to happen. And games matter after that third one. Like, you have to condition yourself, and a lot of these players just don't have that experience. Like, yeah, you've played in big games, but you've never played in massive tournaments. So, and tournament play is very different. Like, some of the players that have gone to like U20s or U23 World Cups, yeah, you got that World Cup experience, but you don't have senior World Cup experience.
Right.
And that hits different. That's gonna the training is different, the body aches are different, the mentality is different, and you have it, and now you're playing with the, like, it's even worse for DeMello because she doesn't get any familiarity with these players. Some of these players, yeah, they've been in camps together, so they kind of know each other, and they know how to like get some of the best out of each other because they've been playing together for years, even if it is their first World Cup. DeMello got none of that.
Mm-hmm.
None of it. So it's going to be even worse for her. So I'm hoping that they are taking all the right steps and precautions to make sure that the players are focused, but are also living in the moment and taking it in, because I feel like the players play their best soccer when they are free and just relaxed and able to have joy in the game.
And that's where I do hope we have 4 timers and several 3-timers and 2-timers. So like we have obviously half the squad as a first timer, but you still have some very experienced players who hopefully can help these players enjoy the World Cup, but be focused on winning the World Cup. Because I think you can do both. I think you should do both. You need to enjoy this experience. But, I'm not worried about Sophia Smith being focused on this tournament. Like I'm not worried about Lynn Williams being focused on this tournament. I'm not worried about even, I'm not really that worried about Emily Fox being focused on this tournament. I think that's where I'm at, is like, yes, overall it's different. It's a whole different animal, and you're going to have nerves, as we always do. But I'm very confident all of these players, these first timers, once they step onto the field, it won't matter. Once that whistle goes, it won't matter to them. Maybe that's just being hopeful. I don't know.
That's very optimistic. I'm so nervous because I'm like, oh my God, they're going to look at those bright lights and these stadiums are going to be filled. Like they've played in like 20,000 seat stadiums, and yes, sometimes they're full. This is different. This is a whole stadium rooting against you.
Well, let's be honest. I think especially in the group games, that stadium's going to be rooting for them, and probably in that first knockout round game, I'm not sure that all the stadium will be full of South Africa fans, but
but okay, so
whoever gets there,
I take it back to this moment that I'll never forget. It was 2019, and it was USA versus France, and we were obviously outnumbered, right? But to fill an entire stadium shake because French fans, they were doing some chant, and basically it was like, if you're not French, then do not jump. And all of us Americans were just like standing there looking at each other like, what are they saying? And then all of a sudden you just feel it bouncing up and down. And it's just, how do you, like, and you're on the field and you can hear it. So you've got to believe that you can feel it too. Just this energy. It's not getting caught up in that energy. And I think a lot of these first timers are going to be like, I feed off that energy. I'm like, well, you feed off of energy, but you don't feed off of this type of energy, because you've never experienced this type of energy. And that's where I'm like, okay, I need those leaders to be like, look, this is where we come in and we hunker down and we focus, and you get your moment and your feeling out of the way at and then you go in and you play your game.
Yes.
But they can't get that message across. Those 14 first timers are gonna feel it, and it's gonna be terrifying. Fun, but terrifying. And I don't need them scared. I need them.
You look at the bracket
focused,
and the group stage. I don't think we'll have to worry about like a fierce opposing fan base. The Dutch travel well, but I think we'll outnumber them there. You look at the bracket, the quarterfinal game, potentially against Japan, potentially against New Zealand if they do well and come out. I mean, so to your point, like it could happen quickly, where you're facing an actually like hostile stadium, because I think it's fair to say that the U.S. I mean, I know lots of people going to support the U.S. Like we'll have a very friendly atmosphere in all three group stage matches, but that knockout round could get, like you said, it could get different real quick. So who, with no Becky Sauerbrunn, who is that? I mean, who's the captain? Is it Pino, who probably won't see field time? Is it Alex Morgan? Is it a younger player?
So when you say like who's wearing the armband?
Well, that's the question. Again, do you have, because Becky was the captain, and obviously she didn't play all the time, but she was the captain. Do you think that role just like persists of like, okay, we have a captain, but like she's not always playing, so we know who the captain is on the field? How do you see that leadership vacuum kind of filling itself?
I mean, Haran's going to have the armband.
Okay.
But I think in terms of leader, I can definitely see like each line having its leader, and then overall it being like Pino.
Okay.
So like on that front line, especially with all the young kids, it's definitely Lynn.
Yeah, I think depending on who's starting, right? Because Alex Morgan's starting, I think she's your leader for like maybe on the whole field.
Yeah.
But I like that point. Like each line needs to have their leader. I mean, Julie Ertz, if she's starting, she could be a leader type of thing,
Right. Oh, definitely.
Where I'm concerned is that back line, though. I'm concerned about that back line because that is where we have the most actually like talent that will be playing that has no experience.
It's done. That leadership on the back line is done, and she's out wide. It should really be coming from the middle, but you're not going to put Ertz. You're not going to put Ertz in center back, so that's out the window. So it's done. Dunn's going to be your left back, and she's going to be the most experienced person on that back line. So she's going to be the de facto leader. It's fair.
I mean, could Nair fill that if she's the starter? Like, I mean,
she does it. That already. She does that already, but she's not very vocal. So what do you listen? Like, what are you saying to them? Like,
I mean, maybe Naomi Girma just like becomes her, fully evolved form as like super leader captain of the U.S. women's national team for the next decade and a half.
Did she hit her Pokemon by like?
Yeah. I mean, it could happen. I would have put it past her. She's. I mean, I do think Naomi's one of those, like, I look after this tournament, and not to get too far ahead, but like I look at her after this tournament and go, she, for me, is going to be a leader as we get forward. But we got to focus on this one. She's brand new to this international experience. I'm just concerned because, like what you said, you would rather prefer it come from the midfield or from the middle, right? You'd rather that be a center back. So I don't know if Girma or Cook are at that level. And that is where I have concern is the leadership on the back line, because as you said, yes, it's Crystal Dunn, but it's different when it's a left back versus the center back. What do you feel? Okay, I'm going to ask this question, and it's going to be differently worded, so it's a kind of a tricky one. So go with me here.
Okay.
Can the U.S. win the World Cup? Should they win the World Cup, and will they win the World Cup?
Can they? Yes. Should they? Yes. Will they? No.
So then my follow-up, and this is a theoretical question, and I know it's hard for us who watch this team and have watched this team for forever to kind of understand that we don't always win the World Cup, because we've won it 2 times in a row. We've been to a final 3 times in a row. Obviously, and Blanco said it, the goal is to win the World Cup. Anything else is a disappointment. Like, flat out, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this bracket. You look at the bracket. I
Wow.
got it printed out. I got it printed out. We're going March Madness here. The U.S. will face some talented teams probably along the way. And obviously this is contingent on us winning the group, which I think is I don't want to say foregone conclusion. I feel very confident we win the group because I think we beat the Netherlands, who are not as good as they were in 2019. Obviously not with they're without Viv Miedema. I think we're a better team than they are. I think we can win the group. So we're on the side of the bracket opposite of most likely teams like England, the host Australia, probably France winning their group, although Brazil could win that group. That's going to be a struggle, but they're both on the other side of the bracket. Germany on the other side of the bracket. Even, dark horses like Canada, Denmark, even Colombia, a tricky team maybe. They're all on the other side of the bracket. I think it's very likely the U.S. makes the final. I really do. Because looking at the teams, I know everyone sorry, I'm going to say something very controversial, and I say it all the time. I know people love to hype up Spain. Ebony, do you know how many knockout round games Spain has won at the international level?
No.
0. So I understand they are very talented individually. Like, they're very good. I'm not willing to buy the fact that a team that has never won a knockout round match in a World Cup or a Euros is going to somehow make a final. And to make that final, they would have to go to the USA. I'm just saying the bracket bodes well for the US.
Mm-hmm.
If we make that final, which would be our 4th final in the world in a row, I'm not saying it would be a success, but I think the team could feel very proud of their accomplishment. Does that make sense?
Yes. Sometimes it's the destination and like you got to the final. Yeah, I can see that.
Especially if you look at the fact that you have 14 new girls, right? Maybe this is like the superhero Genesis story where they don't win the final and then they in turn go and do their multiple World Cup wins type of thing. It's forecasting is speculative, but I'm just saying, I think people are going to want to say if the US does not win the World Cup, oh my gosh, the entire world has surpassed us. What are we doing? We're so terrible. And while, yes, there's a lot of problems with U.S. soccer and women's soccer in the U.S. as a whole, I'm here to tell you the rest of the world is catching up. They may have better teams right now. We still have the most good players of anyone else. So I'm not going to sit I'm just saying, yes, if England wins the World Cup, that's great for them. And it's probably great for women's soccer. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the U.S. is dead and gone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the extremes kind of overtake people's logical thinking.
That's never happened in the U.S. soccer discussion. What are you talking about?
This past week has shown me that people don't think logically. It's an either or situation. I'm like, well, it can be both. There can be two things that are true about this situation. That France, Germany, England, Brazil, they had the better squad for this tournament.
They have very good teams. They're very good.
We also are in a very good transition spot, and we did have a good tournament. Those two things can be true. I don't know if people are ready for the U.S. to not win this tournament. That's one thing.
I think people do not remember the last time we haven't won a tournament. I mean that sincerely. The last time we didn't win was 2011. We still made the final. The last time we didn't make the final was 2007, and we had 2003 and 7 where we didn't win the final, or we didn't make the final. I get it. But even then we got 3rd. So that's kind of the thing is we have had such a string of success. We have never not medaled at a Women's World Cup. We have only not medaled at one international tournament in our entire history, and that was because, the cowards of Sweden. Sorry to borrow that phrase, right? But look, but my point is that was I don't want to say it was a fluke match, but it's Sweden outplayed us one day. If you play that game 10 times more, we probably win it 7 times. They got the better of us in that game. This team is still a team that has more medals than any other team, and a lot of them, more of them combined, outside of maybe Germany. Actually, that's it. If you just take Germany out of the situation, the U.S. has more medals than any other national team collection, period. All I'm just saying is I don't want people to freak out and start saying that U.S. soccer, the women's team is somehow finished, dead. Oh my gosh, we're terrible. obviously we have to see how the tournament actually plays out. I think most people who watch this team would say that, hey, a different coach might be able to get a better product out of this team. But I'm just saying, like, if England, France, Germany, Brazil, if they win the World Cup, like you said, it's because they had a better team. And that's okay in this tournament because they have very good teams. France is almost like, it's almost a crime France hasn't won a World Cup at this point.
Yeah, I wish I could just prepare people for that possibility, right? If a France wins the World Cup or if a Brazil wins the World Cup. I wish we could. I mean, man, we'll just have to see. It's gonna be a fun tournament for new fans because all they've seen is US and they've never seen like Brazil play or any of these teams, even Nigeria play. Like that's gonna be fun soccer because they just don't care. Like I'm excited to watch the Philippines play just because it's their first one and it's gonna be mayhem is not the right word, but it's gonna be fast paced and just out of this world, and you never know what's gonna happen. So I'm excited. Like this whole tournament is gonna make a lot of new fans out of a lot of different teams than just the USA. So,
and I truly hope that because we've seen not just a surge in popularity of the women's game. I mean this sincerely, a truly massive step forward in the level of talent in the women's game because up until maybe 3 years ago, a lot of the talent was consolidated. Does that make sense? All of these teams have fantastic players. I mean, you talk about Brazil, which, by the way, like half of them play in the NWSL, it feels like. They're very talented. France has been talented. England finally has been able to harness their talent. Germany is still, like, again, it's US, Germany, Norway in the history of women's soccer. Like, Germany is a titan in this sport. But we have other teams, right? I mean, Colombia should be fun to watch. You have Japan, which has a World Cup title, should still be fun to watch. Canada, let's see how they respond to winning in the gold medal. Like, there's Nigeria, South Africa. Like, those are teams that should be very fun to watch, and not just in like, oh, it's chaos. Like, no, they have very good, very talented players.
Yeah, I'm very excited for a lot of these new coming teams that are just like making soccer available in their countries now.
And you'll be there to cover a lot of them.
Yeah.
So explain to me what's going on with the World Cup.
I'll be working with Shea Butter FC and Diaspora United, and we'll be covering Group F, which is going to be so much fun.
The chaos. It's the chaos. It's not the group of death. It's the group of chaos. Let's just call it that.
Yes, 1,000% yes. And it's gonna be fun. Like it's just gonna be like I can't wait to watch Dabinia and Carolyn dance. Like they're gonna have so much fun. And then
Marta in her 6th World Cup, by the way, 6.
Right. And that's why Brazil is my favorite for this whole tournament. Is because they all collectively got together and said it's for Marta or nothing. That'll do some things. They're pulling that Messi card out. Because Argentina said for Messi or nothing.
That would be a very fun series of tournaments to have Messi win a men's World Cup finally, and then Marta win a women's. That would be fun as hell.
This is why my little heart is so happy. I cannot wait for them to just be like, I'm running through you. Forget the techers, forget the possession. I'm just running straight through you. Marta said to go. We left and we went and we did this. Marta said jump and we were already in the air. Like, okay.
Well, I know that y'all will have a very fun time covering that. Where all can we follow and make sure we're getting the coverage that we need from Shea Butter and Diaspora and everyone involved?
You can follow on Twitter, Shea Butter FC and Diaspora United. You can follow our individual accounts. I don't know their handles off the hand. Mine is Ebony C25. So I'll be posting updates. Any work that we do, I'll be posting it there. And you'll see us on like Instagram, I think TikTok. I don't know. I'm not a TikTok person, but I guess I need one. We'll see how that works out. Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, IG. I said Instagram and IG, TikTok, all that jazz. We're gonna do everything we can to make sure that everyone has all the information they need about these groups. I'm excited. It's gonna be crazy. Audio, video. So Sylvia from Shea Butter is fantastic with a pen. So I can't wait to read her written work too. Sky is very good with all the audio and visual and community. So there's going to be a lot of that happening as well, on both in Australia and in the States. So it's going to be a fun time. We've got some really cool stuff coming up and planned. So we just can't wait to share with everyone. So.
And to remind everyone, this is in response to the fact that, especially outside the U.S. and even in the U.S., the coverage of this tournament, which deserves peak coverage, hasn't reportedly been the way that it should. But it's not getting. It doesn't seem like it'll get the attention it deserves, and so this has left a gap in coverage that needs to be filled. And we're fortunate that we have people who are passionate about not just soccer, but specifically women's soccer, and making sure that the stories of women's soccer get told. And I'm glad y'all are going down there. I'm excited to, contribute in the slightest bit to this coverage by just giving people updates that I was at the games and explaining the experience there, because I expect this World Cup to be on a different level than any other women's World Cup has been, especially. And I'm with you in that I'm just looking forward to every bit of talent that'll be on the field in Australia, New Zealand.
I'm excited, and hopefully I get to see you there.
I know we'll have to figure out some sort of meeting. I like I said, I'll be mostly in New Zealand. You said I think you'll be mostly in Australia for the Group F, but we should have time at some point. And I'm flying in and out of Sydney, so I'm sure we'll be able to schedule a meetup of some sort.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Eboni, thank you so much for talking with me today. We spent a long time talking about U.S. women's roster and U.S. soccer and women's soccer in general. Thanks for joining me.
Anytime. For you, anytime.
Well, thank you. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Soccer Down Here so you can get all of the coverage coming out of the HCH network. I appreciate you again. I'm Bart. I'm out.